Hey everyone, and welcome back to Timeless. Today we're going to be going over last week's tournament where I got second place playing Shift and Tell. We're going to spend the first half of the video going over this tournament write-up that I did and going over the metagame. And the second half of the video, we're going to review some gameplay. I recorded all of my matches, so the ones that I don't review here will be uploaded as a separate VOD, just like a 2 or 3 hour long unedited video with all the footage. But I will go over the matches where I played against the first place player, Kapala, because those were some fun and interesting matches. So at the tournament last weekend, I ended up grabbing second place playing Shift and Tell, which is an off meta deck that we have seen before. It's something that fell out of the meta a long time ago, to be honest. Also, ignore the format legality issues on this website. I took the Tyrant, and he said he's going to try to switch the Gathering to use a different deck hosting website because he keeps marking random timeless decks as illegal. This is a perfectly legal deck in Timeless, and this is an old combo deck. You guys might remember this from like 6 months to a year ago. This was very popular right after MH3 came out. And the idea with this deck is that you are an Omniscience plus Shifting Woodland deck. So you are a lot less fast and less turbo than traditional show and tell decks, but you have the resilience of being able to combo from your graveyard, so you're really resilient to discard, you're really resilient to counter spells. And the deck gets a lot slower, but it gets there. And it gets to play a lot of technology such as Ugin's Binding as a way to bounce any sort of hate pieces or sideboard cards your opponents have, plus get a total board bounce against your opponent by evoking a card like an Old Drifter down here. If you evoke it for 3 mana, it still counts as casting a 7 mana spell for Ugin's Binding. So why'd I play this? Because this is not my kind of deck, right? You wouldn't think I would sleeve up show and tell combo for a tournament. If I give you a bunch of guesses to guess what I picked, you would not pick this, right? I would probably try to play Energy or the latest fast combo deck, a Dark Ritual one. Interesting thing happened with the meta after Aether Drift. Aether Drift brought us Chrome Mox, which this deck plays one copy of. Honestly, this one copy is probably not correct. I kept the one copy in just so that people wouldn't keep asking me why it's not there. It's really not optimal in this deck. This deck needs a... It's not... Well, first, it's not trying to go fast, so it doesn't need the turbo mana. But second, we're trying to hit like a critical mass of cards in the graveyard, right? We have a game plan. We need to be casting cards like Cash Grab, Malevolent Rumble to fill the graveyard, and going down on card disadvantage for this, while also sometimes going down on card disadvantage for our land, our Ugin's Labyrinth, it was really tough. And also the colors for imprinting on this is really tough because we have a lot of cards that are technically blue here, like Ugin's Binding, but it's devoid. So we have a lot of cards that don't imprint. So like I'm really cheating it by playing, 2 MDFCs in the deck that make the mana so clunky, but oh man, the imprint count was really tough. So don't play Chrome Mox if you're going to net deck this, probably. So Chrome Mox decks, to get back to my original point, are really good. Chrome Mox combo decks are incredibly strong on ladder. We have really good players putting up really high win rates and getting very high rank with new Chrome Mox decks, or old decks that are updated with Chrome Mox, right? Black White Belcher, S tier deck for ladder, right? You can get a crazy high win rate, you can camp a high rank. The new Greaseball deck, Sorin Storm, both me and Greaseball were in top 10 at the same time playing that deck right before this tournament. So I'm assuming a lot of people are thinking I'm going to bring that deck to the tournament, right? Because of the existence of all these really fast combo decks, people started gearing for them. People started putting a lot of sideboard cards in, and there was a new control build that really dunks on those decks. People are playing 4 subtleties in their main deck to slow down the explosive starts, because a lot of those decks do actually cast a Grief on their first turn and use it for fast mana, so subtletying that will slow them down. Or subtletying the Sorin and Sorin Alenda. There's a lot of ways to get them with subtlety, but it's also playing 4 Flare of Denial plus the Shield back tech. I don't have the deck up. Actually, wait, let's get the deck up. Yeah. This is the technology here we're talking about. We're talking about Flare of Denial. We're talking about 4 copies of Subtlety in the main deck. Mana Drain, of course, is very strong. And then the sideboard, they play 3 or 4 Commandeer, depending on the build. It absolutely, dunks on these unfair decks. It is a terrible matchup. Like, when I was trying to figure out what deck to bring to this tournament, I'm testing with Greaseball, and, we couldn't figure this out. like, they really had our number. And a lot of the really talented control players were putting up really good results in ranked, like a couple days before the tournament, to the point where I felt very unconfident in my ability to win on more traditional combo, right? So this was not my idea to play Shift. It was actually Greaseball's idea, because both me and him wanted to play in this tournament. He ended up not making it. I think he had a family thing come up at the last second, but 2 days before the tournament, less than 48 hours ago, he has an idea. He's like, wait, to get around all these free counter spells and this Esper deck that's really metagamed against different combo decks, we could bring this thing, the really slow and resilient combo deck. And this also has, or we thought it would have, a really good matchup against Energy and Baelmerk. And we tested it against Baelmerk, and being a One Ring deck, let's use the funny One Ring art. Being a One Ring deck with access to Ugin's Binding Mouths the whole board makes you incredibly, incredibly strong against those creature strategies. And their discard barely works against you. Juggernaut Peddler is good because it can exile things, but that's the only discard spell that really works. Deafening Silence, the common sideboard tech for show and tell decks, just doesn't work against this deck. Like, we have Ugin's Binding plus Force of Vigor to blow it up, and we cast a lot of creature spells off of show and tell, right? Like, if we show and tell Omniscience into play and then just cast 4 Eldrazi, it's usually enough to like win the game. We don't need hard combo. And we also did tech our sideboard to beat those specific decks. We put 4 Torpor Orbs in, and we tested it a bunch just between the two of us, and it seemed really, really good. It was a secret between us. I registered Shift and Tell and got second place. It was an awesome called shot against the meta, so credit to Greaseball for coming up with that, and thanks to him for helping me test that a bunch, because we jammed. Because keep in mind, he thought of this less than 48 hours before the tournament, so I think that night we jammed like 6 hours of playtesting straight. To figure out whether or not he actually had a good idea. And yeah, it was a great idea. We built the sideboard for defense grids because we knew a lot of people would be on the control build, and we want every bit of help that we can get against it. Like, you can't just rely on the eventuality. You also do want to put sideboard cards in your deck. And Force of Vigor and Torpor Orb to round it out. This deck is really, really, really pointed at those control decks and the Baelmerk decks that we were expecting a lot of for the tournament. We were right. So many people brought control. Like, almost half the field was control. It was crazy. No Baelmerk players, though. Only one Baelmerk deck. And I think only like 2 Energy players. And of course, first place ended up being Energy. Which we went 1-1 against Kapala. Me personally went 1-1 against Kapala. I played him in the group stages, beat him, but then he beat me in the finals, unfortunately. That was my only loss all the way in the finals. So this deck performed amazingly well. Exceeded my expectations. Like, I knew me and Grease had a really neat call against the meta, but sometimes you think you're smarter than you are, and you're wrong about these sort of niche meta calls. So it was awesome to see it work out. That was the thought process behind Shift and Tell, if any of you guys were wondering why I decided to sleeve this up. It absolutely dunked on Esper. I played it against Esper multiple times the day of the tournament. It worked. I had, I think, 3 different control decks that I played against. Not just that Esper list. I played against the Jeskai list, the blue-white list. A lot of people brought different control brews, and like none of them were able to lock it down. Also, one thing about this Esper list, like if we go to Chest Hair, who was in the top 4, yeah, because Chest Hair and Novos are the originators of this list. They're the 2 people who worked on it, right? Look at the sideboard. Look carefully. What's missing? Graveyard Hate. They play 0. Because how you contain the other graveyard combo decks is you counterspell them, right? Like the Sorin Storm deck, you just counterspell Chthonian Nightmare. You don't need to actually lock down the graveyard. But against this deck, yeah, you actually do need to lock down the graveyard separately. So I caught them with their pants down, with no counterspells in the deck. That was the final reason why Shift ended up being good. And even my version of Mardu Energy that Kapala was running, Kapala said thank you to me after the tournament because he stole my version in my sideboard guide. And this is pretty much exactly my deck 1-for-1. There's a 1 copy of Unlicensed Terrace in this deck. Like, there's not Surgical Extraction anymore or anything crazy, right? So it was really, really free to play Shift and Tell. All right, this is the first taste deck. It's Energy. It's my build. I don't know. I don't have too many more comments other than the fact that like this deck is still very good. There's the 1K tournament this weekend. I'm going to be playing Energy again. I have switched around a couple of the cards, and I'll talk about that more after the tournament. I'll make a video. I'll talk about it a bunch on Discord. I've been a little secretive about exactly what changes I made because, it's the 1K tournament and everybody wants to do well. I want to win the tournament or at least have a really good showing. So a bunch of private testing, which I will be happy to talk about with everybody after. Hopefully I'll have a really good report, or I'll go like 0-3 and then I'll get made fun of on Discord. That would also be kind of fun. I got my win in this tournament, right? So if I 0-3 scrub in the next one, it's not the end of the world. All right. Oh yeah, Kapala, if you do want to watch it, he uploaded his top 8 on YouTube right here. It's linked in the article, and if I remember, I will link it in my own video if you do want to watch him. Okay, it's me in second, third place. So this is one of the control lists. we saw a lot of new control lists. The Esper control list was brand new. It's only a couple days old, and this is a very different control list to what you'd see on ladder as well. Like all of the control players showed up with unique things that didn't exist 2 weeks ago. It was all brand new stuff, and congrats to all of them for making really cool decks. Like I think deck building was really awesome on the side of the control players, and they all came up with different things, and it was really good across the board. So since MH3 came out, people have been playing like Psychic Frog in their tempo slash control decks. A lot of these control decks are more tempo because they play creatures, but I'm going to call them control decks because they're playing Commandeer, and it seems like the community as a whole recently has started calling tempo control more, just because like they're playing Subtlety Commandeer and a lot more like control elements instead of just slamming threats on the board. But ever since we've had like Psychic Frog and Orcus Bowmasters to be in a deck together, that's been the core of control builds, right? Even before Psychic Frog, the classic control build of Timeless was like the Mistman style, Luris, 4 Bowmasters, 4 Baubles, and all spells. That deck was just miserable to play against on ladder, to be honest. But like the decks have always been black. But what's happened recently is that these control mages are moving away from discard, because what happens is you discard your opponent and then they just top deck out of it. It's really frustrating play experience because a lot of these combo decks are built with redundancy, so they're resilient to discard, and discard is also very, very bad against energy because, again, that deck is just built with so much redundancy. A lot of these decks just have redundancy to the point where one discard spell does not matter because they're going to draw a roughly analogous card off the top of their deck. So control mages are opting to control the board on the stack. So if you don't need discard anymore, you could maybe sacrifice Psychic Frog to play red cards. Because white has also become a mandatory card in control, both for 4 copies of Swords to Plowshares that pretty much everybody was running. By the way, this was the most played card in the tournament, played in like 70% of decks. It's crazy. Swords to Plowshares, #1 card in the format right now. And also playing sideboard cards, which are very good, such as Deafening Silence. So blue-white are mandatory. Red ended up being the splash color here. Ragavan is a fantastic mirror breaker. Great idea here. I'm currently playing 4 Ragavan in my energy build because there's so much combo and so much control nowadays. Ragavan is really free against those archetypes. Against control, he's like a removal check. Like your opponent has to have removal, or they have to have like a 1/3 shield back in order to block it. Against combo, this guy just never gets removed. He generates mana every single turn. Sometimes he steals a random card that's useful, like a Brainstorm. Awesome, awesome card to play 4 copies of right now. And that's why this particular deck got 3rd place. Yeah, and then there's a lot of other like really good red cards, like Expressive Iteration. Sees pretty much 0 play in the format. It was awesome to see that. Lightning Bolt to shore up the removal suite. I really like this. And Teferi as a control mirror breaker. All the Esper control gamers picked it up since then. Like the Chester Esper build now has 2 copies of Teferi in the sideboard, I believe. Because just Teferi is so incredibly good in control mirrors. It's kind of crazy how good it is. And yeah, other than that, usual stuff out of this deck for control mages. All right, 4th place, more control. Would you believe it? I was expecting a control field, and we got all control. So this is Gandalf control, like proper blue-white, lock it down, no splash color control. And again, we're playing Teferi, which is why the Esper mages ended up losing a bit more than they won. A lot of people brought quote-unquote greedier control builds than Esper. Even though Esper was the favorite control deck going into this tournament, these novel control builds really beat up on it. So they're playing Teferi as a control mirror breaker, cool cards like Snapcaster Mage that we all love. And what I really like, and I really think is cool, is that they are playing main deck cards like Meddling Mage and Curse of Silence. That is 7 name a spell effects. And I think that's really, really powerful in an open deck list format. I've learned after this tournament that open deck list really buffs a lot of decks. Unfair decks really don't get buffed by it. Like, especially this was reinforced me playtesting leading up to the next tournament. If you're playing Black White Belcher, it does not matter if you know what your opponent's deck is game 1. You're just trying to do your own thing. But if you're playing Energy or you're playing Control, the interactive decks, it gives you such a huge heads up. It gives you such a huge edge compared to ladder games. Like me knowing whether or not I should lead with turn 1 Ragavan, turn 1 Thoughtseize, or turn 1 Guide of Souls in my energy deck improves my win rate tremendously. And the combo gamer I'm playing against isn't receiving that sort of help. So this was really cool. I loved seeing it in action. It's also, it's like such a greedy build though, because like it's main decking the Commandeers too. It's really cool, really unique. Got the sideboard Harbinger of the Sides as well. Sky Harbinger of the Seas, excuse me. Yeah, this is quite the Gandalf build. It's really cool for the open decklist tournament, though. I like it a lot. I don't know how it's going to work on ladder or work in the future, though. All right, Rakdos Madness. This was a really, really interesting one. I played against them, and this is the one game I forgot to record for my VOD. I'm kind of mad about it. So this is an all-in creature deck. The problem with this deck, it still got to 5th place, which is awesome, but the problem with the deck is that it just does not pack enough interaction to play against unfair decks. But what it does is it slaps its cards on the table, and the control decks couldn't handle it. So this is another deck that just like thrived in this control field because they were able to just like slap their creatures onto the table faster than it could be answered. Again, where's the chest hair list? How this chest hair list works is that they're not main decking board wipes or anything, right? You don't see board wipes here. You see 2 Toxic Deluge in the sideboard, and that's it for the energy matchup. But generally, what they're trying to do is they're trying to like subtlety you on the stack to slow you down, and then 1-for-1 you with cards like Fragment Reality, Swords to Plowshares, Mana Drain. And then eventually they're going to recoup the card advantage from having to 2-for-1 for things like Subtlety or Flare of Denial with Treasure Cruise, looping that late game, and then eventually pulling ahead, right? It's a lot of 1-for-1 answering, and the blue mages need their mana to do that 1-for-1 answering. And what this deck does is it just slaps its stuff on the table. I think his deck list is actually slightly out of date, the one that is in this article, because he was also playing the new Mako card, the 1-mana Shark Boy. That's similar to Flameblade Adept, except it's a permanent buff. So he had all these 1-drops that will grow. He has 1-drops that he can cast for 0. He has 5-drops that he could cast for 0. So this guy slapped multiple threats on the table on like turn 2 faster than control mages could generally answer it. And they were scaling threats, right? There are things like Flameblade Adept, the new Mako card, Inti, things that would keep growing, yeah. Detective Phoenix to haste things up. Goyf would keep growing as well. Fear of missing out for extra combat steps. It's like that old Jund Delirium deck. It just goes fast, right? And it can prey on a certain kind of combo and control deck by just going a little faster than them. 2 Arena of Glory as well. Like, this is really cool. But they ended up losing to me. And I was their only loss for the tournament, actually, which is crazy. And the reason they lost to me is because they could not properly interact with my combo, and they couldn't properly interact with the One Ring, right? They had some Leyline of the Voids that they could mulligan to, and I think they went up to 4 Thoughtseize, but like that was it. And like I said before, Thoughtseize is not great interaction for Shift and Tell because I'm a graveyard combo deck. So all I did was I just looped the One Ring, and this guy couldn't kill me, but this was still like a really good deck. A really interesting new deck to see at the tournament. All right, there's the Esper list. I have talked about it a lot. I think we're gonna skip it. This deck is very good though. Like it's still, in my opinion, the number 1 control deck. It's gonna be the control deck to beat for next weekend. It's learned some lessons from this tournament and it has been improved a lot. So watch out for it. All right, Belcher, the one guy who registered fast combo for this tournament, did get top 8 with it. This is Black White Belcher. I made videos on it before. I don't think I need to go over it that much because of that. Except this build is playing Beseech the Mirror and Ironcrag Feet, which is really cool and really interesting. So it's somewhat like the Black White Belcher, but also quite different. It does not have Sorin Alenda, I believe, right? Yeah, so they use the new technology in the Sorin Alenda slots to play Shadow Mortality and Beseech the Mirror. And Sacrifice as well. So what you could do is you cast Necropotence, you go down to like 1 HP. You cast your Shadow Immortality. It costs 2 mana only. And you can assume you have 3 mana in play because you just played a Necro, right? So with your 3rd mana, you then cast the card Sacrifice, and then you have access to 15 mana, at which point you can just win the game. So this is a cool idea, cool deck. But unfortunately, like with all the Esper control running around, this was the only deck that was able to squeeze in the top 8 as a super unfair deck, and it ended up losing to control in the top 8. And then in 8th place, we have yet another copy of the same list. A lot of people registered this exact same list because this is the one that was passed around. I mean, slight differences, like this one actually is trying to run a little bit of Graveyard Hate. Other than that, it's roughly the same Esper list. So that's it, my thoughts on the metagame. I'm not sure exactly what meta we're going to see for the 1K because, that's been on my mind. That's why it took me like a week to make this video because I've been like playtesting. I've been trying to figure out what the meta is going to be. I think we're going to see a lot of energy because it won this tournament, but I'm honestly not sure exactly like how the combo decks are going to shake out. So I'm really, really interested to see what happens at the 1K. And I was super happy with this tournament because we saw a lot of diversity in control decks, and then of course we had the hero deck come in second place. All right, that's it for my yapping. We're now going to go over the gameplay of me versus Kapala. We played each other twice. We played each other at the end of the, what you call it, Swiss stage, because we were both undefeated. That was Kapala's one loss, and then we played each other again in the finals, and that was my one loss for the tournament. We both went 7-1 on the day, so I'm going to go over both of those games. All right, so let's go ahead and look at our first game versus Kapala. This is the first time we played him in the Swiss stage. So I'm on Shift and Tell combo, and he is on Energy. So how this matchup plays is that the Shift and Tell deck has Eventuality. My job is to stall the game until I can slowly assemble all of my combo pieces, because he can use interaction after interaction after interaction. Eventually, no matter how much he does, my graveyard is going to get filled up, and I'm going to be able to copy an Omniscience in my graveyard. So for me, it's objective, survive, and slowly fill the graveyard as I go. For him, he's going to try to kill me as fast as possible. He ideally needs to kill me turn 4 before like a One Ring can stick on the battlefield, for example. Energy definitely does have the capability of doing that, but I would say that this matchup is slightly favored for Shift and Tell at the end of the day, especially when we look at a hand like this. So this is a hand that I end up keeping because the One Ring, like I said, is one of the most powerful cards in this matchup. It's a card that lets you completely stall the board for a turn. So Energy can have you dead next turn, and you say, no thank you, I would like one more turn. And an effect that is pretty much, if you would lose the game next turn, you don't lose the game. You get another turn. Oh, and by the way, you draw 3 cards. That is a little bit busted. So we're going to keep this hand off the strength of the One Ring. And, oh, my cursor's recording too. Cool. Ugin's Labyrinth plus Devourer of Destiny. So we are going to be able to play the One Ring a turn early, and we're also going to have Devourer of Destiny for card selection. So hopefully we can start selecting towards our combo. So yeah, Snapkeep for me. Devourer trigger is going to go on the stack, and we see an Omniscience, which is our combo piece, Channel, Null Drifter, Hedge Maze. We have our land drops, so we don't necessarily need the Hedge Maze. We're going to use Malevolent Rumble to make sure we hit that 3rd and 4th land drop. Channel is a card that I don't love against Energy because they put a lot of pressure on your life total, and also we don't have any crazy colorless payoffs in hand, so I'm not thinking about that card as well. We also don't have double green, we just have a Misty Rainforest. Null Drifter is an okay card, and I might take it if there's nothing else, but Omniscience is one of our win conditions, and I believe that's what we end up taking here, unless I'm misremembering. All right, and keep in mind, we're on the play, so we don't get that until next turn anyway, so safe from discard for turn 1 at least. Although him discarding it with a Thoughtseize really would not be bad for us, because that's one of our ways to win. So he's going to lead with Thoughtseize because he knows it is the Energy versus combo matchup, and he needs to disrupt me. The best card in my hand, by a mile, is the One Ring, and this is the one that he should be discarding with Thoughtseize. Kapala is a really good player, too, so I'm going to give him credit. He's a ladder grinder. He hit rank 1 in Historic a million times. He's finished ranked 1 in Historic. He plays creature decks like this all the time. He's mostly known for Yawgmoth, right? So he knows how to use Thoughtseize against a combo deck. So what ends up happening here is he doesn't take the One Ring. He actually takes Founding to keep me off of one of my faster starts. Because theoretically, next turn, if I play Founding, I can do Founding plus Malevolent Rumble and have 8+ cards in my graveyard and dig for a Shifting Woodland and probably win the game. This tells me, though, that he does have another One Ring answer in his hand. Like, he's going to Juggernaut Petal me next turn, or just cast another Thoughtseize. So we do need to be conscious of that. I am going to snap off my Rumble right now, though. Ideally, what I'm trying to find is something like a Shifting Woodland so that I can win for my graveyard. Here, Devourer of Destiny isn't going to do anything, so we can take either land. We could take Misty and have a Surveil land guaranteed, but I think I end up taking Boseiju here as a way to beat Static Prison, because if we draw the card Show and Tell off the top of our library, we can just jam Omnitel, and their answer to that would be Static Prison. I can Boseiju the Static Prison. Also, since I knew this Juggernaut Peddler was coming, I would like interaction that can't get discarded. So now Kapala gets the decision, does he want to get rid of my Omniscience to prevent Omniscience shenanigans, or does he want to get rid of the One Ring to prevent me from stalling and drawing a million cards? And this is a tough one. I do think that is the correct pick. I do have like a 1-outer here to draw exactly the card Show and Tell to jam Omniscience and then play a Rumble as one piece of follow-up. but he might be holding something like a Static Prison in hand, so I can kind of assume that he has some sort of a hate piece in hand if he's going to let me keep Omniscience here. Because he saw this Boseiju, right? He's aware that I can blow up his Static Prison. I wouldn't be able to do it this turn. We're just like slightly short on mana. If we drew Show and Tell, we wouldn't be drawing a land drop. And here, I think about it for a little bit. Think if there's something better I could do, but I just end up rumbling to get my next land drop, and I think I end up playing this Disciple tapped here. Rumble finds another One Ring. It's one of the best cards it can hit, right? And we could use that One Ring to stall the board forever. If he has another discard spell, then sure, he could go after it, but then we're at least able to hold this Omniscience in our hand. So your Kapala, he does his Guide of Souls, does his Monkey. He just has a fair creature hand from now on. He's kind of out of interaction. So now what the energy deck is doing is saying, okay, I've discarded you twice. I've done my interaction. I'm presenting a very fast clock. Win the game before I win. And it's not looking good for the home team. Kapala probably does not kill me on his next turn, though he could maybe do it if his last cards were crazy like a Johnny Bombardment. But he's definitely killing me the turn after, right? Good news is we have this ring here. So I actually get to make the decision, do I play the ring right away or do I like greet it and try to see if I don't die? And I decide to play it right away instead of greeting a little bit. Because the ring lets us draw a bunch of cards deep, and from before, I'm holding Omniscience plus Boseiju, so if I find the card Show and Tell in the next 4 cards of my library, I do win the game. We get a Surveil here, another One Ring, fantastic. This is exactly what we want to see. So now we're at the phase of the game. Like I said, we're just stalling. We're literally just stalling until the thing goes our way. That's a Najani. Scary card. Does not matter. We have the One Ring. Again, the One Ring in this case read, if you would lose the game during your opponent's next turn, instead you don't lose the game and you draw 3 cards. It's just insane. Oh, instead you just lose 1 life. Sorry. Yeah, look how many cats this guy has. If he had Bombardment, he's getting close to just like a ping lethal here. But we're going to take our 3 cards, we're going to play our One Ring, we're going to Legend Rule them, we're going to take another turn. If we hit mana here, actually we can sacrifice our spawn, so we don't even need to hit mana, but we have the ability to do Cash Grab on his end step as well to try and find Shifting Woodland to win the game. So we're like 95% to win plus here. We just need to chain into the right thing. There's a lot of cards that win us the game here. Another copy of One Ring would stall, but outright win the game kind of cards would be a copy of Show and Tell. Cash Grab hitting something like Shifting Woodland, just Shifting Woodland drawn off of the One Ring or drawn naturally also wins the game. We have a lot of ways to win here, and Kapala has very few of them. If his last cards are like Creature plus Bombardment, he might be able to get to 14 creatures in play to ping me 14 times for a kill. But that's kind of it for him. Like, him having Static Prison doesn't even help because I can just Boseiju it. I think he does draw Static Prison. Yeah, this is the turn you Static Prison. So I have a decision here, and I don't know why I did this in hindsight. So if I was playing this game again, I would totally cast Cash Grab here to, like, look for Shifting Woodland. But I decided to Boseiju instead to get extra card draw. Because Boseiju is worth an extra 3 cards here. I Boseiju him. Let's go to his end step. I did think about this for a little bit, then I ended up Boseijuing him. I'm pretty sure that, I don't know, maybe I should have Cash Grabbed, maybe I shouldn't have. I mean, 3 cards drawn is pretty similar to like 4 cards deep in mill, right? I'm not sure what the correct decision is now that I look over it again, because I watched this before I started recording. My initial instinct was, no, I did it wrong, and now my thought now is, oh, maybe I did do it right. It all depends on what cards are on top of my library, right? And we can sit here and do the math like a nerd. Okay, so we whiffed, quote unquote, on like the One Ring. Obviously, we drew cards like Cash Grab that are going to help us keep going, but we didn't hit those win conditions, right? We did not hit the actual card Shifting Woodland. We did not hit the actual card Show and Tell. We want to hit one of those, right? So I'm just tapping my mana very carefully because this video game loves to screw you over. There's the actual card Show and Tell, but I can't grab it. None of these cards are relevant to me trying to win this turn. Like, I really need to find another One Ring or Shifting Woodland. And I only have one more look with Cash Grab to find Shifting Woodland because I will be out of green mana soon. There you go. That's Shifting Woodland, and that's a game win. We also happen to mill over Ugin's Binding to bounce his whole board. So, unfortunately for Kapala, that is the game. So we have that Ugin's Binding in our board, so I'm going to Devour. I'm going to like perma-exile the Ajani. I'm stacking these triggers so that Ajani goes away forever, and then everything else just gets bounced. Stacking these triggers is pretty important. If you choose to play this deck yourself, make sure you do it. Just because, for example, if you evoke a Null Drifter to bounce their whole board, you're going to want to bounce the board before you draw 2 cards. If they have a card like Bowmasters in play, which will, spoiler alert, come up later. Comes up in one of the 4 games I played against Kapala. I can't remember which one. But it's one of the featured ones. Yeah, I have a zillion cards in hand, and he scoops it up. Disciple of Fraley's being an MDSU that helps you win the game is really, really sweet. So against Energy, the sideboard plan is to bring in the defense grids and the forces of vigor, or not the, sorry, the torpor orbs, not the defense grids. 2 mana artifacts, they're also similar. Ooh. So I think the correct sideboarding is the 4-2 split. I do it first. I think I changed it to a 3-3 split after a little bit. I think this is correct, and the correct cuts are going to be Channel, because Energy's beating you down. You don't want Channel in your deck. The Chrome Mox, because I don't think it should be in the deck in the first place, and you can cut a mana source on the draw. One of the Fae of Wishes is also a good cut, because Fae of Wishes is really only needed to win against combo decks that are going to win the game themselves if you let them untap. So against fair decks, you can trim one of those copies. And then lastly, I end up trimming like just Founding of the Third Path just as like the next worst card in the deck, though you can argue for trimming a different card. Yeah, instead of cutting 3 Founding, you could cut a different card here and convince me that it's correct. Yeah, there I go to the 3-3 split. I think I did that because I know he has Graveyard Hate in the form of Unlicensed Curse. And that is a card that I really do need to have an answer to if it shows up. All right, game 2 versus Kapala. So this is like, could be the Greed Lord keep of all time. You know, all timeless players stop 1 game before they hit that perfect turn 2 show and tell hand. If Devourer of Destiny finds Ugin's Labyrinth on top of my library, it's just a turn 2 win the game. But Energy is very interactive. They have so many ways to prevent that. What I need is a resilient hand. I don't need a hand that just wins the game on turn 2. I need resiliency. If I were to put that Ugin's Labyrinth on top of my library to cast Show and Tell on turn 2, I wouldn't have green mana, I wouldn't be able to cast Cash Grab, I wouldn't be able to get myself out of the situation after he uses his 1 piece of interaction, right? So I end up mulliganing this, even though this is like the degen brain best of 1 keep. This is a hand that you have to get rid of in best of 3 after sideboarding. All right, this is a lot better. It's got the 1 ring, it's got Shifting Woodland, it's got the cards we need, it's even got the sideboard card. I end up putting my sideboard card back here because I value the 1 ring more. I value hitting consistent land drops more, and I know I could just like find it again if I draw enough cards. Yes, yeah, I originally wanted to put the land drop back, but I said, yeah, let's put the sideboard card back. I didn't need 3 copies of that silly thing. I could find the other 2 copies in my library. All right, so here, again, it's just going to be objective survive. We want to play the 1 ring. Hopefully play it early. I was hoping for Ugin's Lab here to get that 1 ring out super early. I think the next best card that we see here would be Rumble. We could play the Surveil land on turn 1, Rumble on turn 2, play a 1 ring on turn 3. Seems like a great plan here. You could also take Boseiju, argue that it's good interaction plus the consistent land drop just in case, but Rumble is a great card. That's what I take. I hope it's what I take. I hope I'm not misremembering. Am I thinking about it? Yeah, I took Rumble. Took Rumble, did the Surveil, like I said. Yeah, straight to the graveyard. Yeah. Now we just have to draw an Null Drifter, and we can stall their board forever. All right. Amp Chapter hits interaction. You love to see it. It's not crazy interaction, but it's something that's going to hurt when I try to draw cards off my ring. This game does get a little painful with the Bowmasters. Hey, look at that. It's the Null Drifter that I wanted to draw. I love playing this deck, man. All right, Ugin's Lab is really sweet because it's double mana. So I'm going to go ahead and take that. Yeah, in hindsight, actually, looking at this pile again. Yeah. I could have just taken the second 1 ring. He has that Bowmasters, which is kind of scary. I mean, it might have been what dissuaded me off of the 1 ring, but like, I could have just taken second ring because I was going to have 4 mana regardless if I was okay paying 3 life off Disciple of Fraley's, right? Because now I'm going to have 5 mana next turn and I'm only going to use 4 of it. My token's just going to die to Bowmaster. Yeah, whatever. So Kapala does his thing, and I'm skipping his whole turn, but like his turn is not relevant. This deck's toxic, man. My deck is toxic. Like his turn is not relevant if he's not casting Juggernaut Peddler or killing me. So he's got a big board. I am going to have to stall here. So here, instead of like imprinting that, I should have just played Shifting Woodland and used my Spawn for mana. Because Spawn's just going to die the Bowmasters. Me punting classic. It's such a minuscule thing, and it ends up not mattering, is what you'll realize in this matchup. Broad strokes are what matters more than that micro gameplay. So he's going to static prison my ring. I got my turn of protection though. That's what I care about. I didn't die. That's the important part about the One Ring. And then next turn, I can just evoke my Null Drifter, bounce this whole board. If I stack my triggers well, I'll get my way. And what's neat is that he's tapped out on mana, so he can't like re-flash in the Bowmaster. Null Drifter here, bounce your whole board, please. I get my One Ring back, please, and thank you. And I also get to cash grab on your end step. This deck's messed up. You can see why energy is a good matchup. But we did lose to him in the finals. But this match we won 2-0. We'll see in the finals how it can go well for energy, because you guys know. Energy is a messed up ladder deck. And it's a messed up tournament deck as well. In these matchups, I was just able to do my thing. He didn't have the proper like exile discard. He couldn't exile my graveyard, so I got to stall. But it's very possible for energy to get under me. In fact, if you want to see that, just like watch his POV of the finals. He always has it. The man keeps like triple discarding creatures, and it works out. All right, but this game. Onto this game. He's gonna redeploy his threats. He can't redeploy enough threats to just kill me outright. Which is interesting. At the end of this turn, yeah. So he plays all these threats. This is not lethal. So I actually don't need another One Ring to stall the game. I could bounce Bowmasters and draw some cards. But I'm going to cash grab first. See if I can set up a Shifting Woodland win immediately. I could not. I'm checking for bindings in my graveyard because I see that Null Drifter. But what I'm going to end up doing here instead... I just realized the Deafening Silence is keeping me off of binding, which is really funny, so I end up passing to Kapala. Yeah, look at me, idiot here. I'm like wondering why I can't cast my binding. Well, I think I'm past the wondering why part, and I'm on to the, oh, I can't. Okay, so let's go to his turn. And then what I realize is I have 8 cards in hand. So I purposely missed my land drop so that I can discard Omniscience. And I can combo win off my graveyard next turn. So the only way that Kapala can mess with this is if he draws his 1 copy of Unlicensed Curse. And I'm totally willing to take those odds. I didn't have to like risk too much to even take those odds too. Like all I had to do was miss a land drop in order to discard hand size. So you can take the damage here. Bounce his Bowmasters or something. Yeah, so he tries his best to interact with me, fills the board. He leaves Bowmaster's mana up, so I don't bother bouncing it right there. And then here, always tap manually on Arena, because Arena loves screwing you over and trying to keep Shifting Woodland untapped, even though it's going to become Omniscience, which works if it is tapped. And then here, bounce your thing, bounce Deafening Silence so I can, do my thing. And then here, what I should have done is Devourer of Destiny pointed at Bowmasters to exile it perma, but instead I did Null Drifter first. Slight misplay. We end up winning, like, regardless. We end up building a big enough board state that it doesn't really matter. So I bounce all my stuff, draw all my cards. Kapala, like, forgets to flash in his Bowmasters again, which is kind of like a counter punt, but we'll take it here. I think he scoops up for me now that I've played multiple... Oh, no, he doesn't scoop up. Right, we go to another turn. I'm declining here. I'm just drawing a bunch of cards. I don't quite get a win together. I should have exiled this Bowmaster. If I exiled the Bowmaster, I could have went a lot greedier because I had Devour of Destiny plus Disciple. But if I do that while I use the Bowmaster, it could mess me up. Theoretically give him lines to win. Oh, but I had 1 ring protection. What was I thinking at the time? I probably still could have just like drawn 6 cards off of Disciple plus Devourer, right? I don't know. Definitely could have navigated this turn a little bit better. But we end up getting there, right? He easy bakes, does not quite get there. He exiles my Omniscience over there, but I have another one in the graveyard to just copy. I can actually take that card back. Why didn't I take it back? Yeah, now I end up manually tapping all of my mana, so I have the option to return that back to my hand. Look at Arena trying to screw me over. You see that? It's trying to tap my land that I want the ELDRAZI back from. Ah, silly Arena. Alright, so now we exile Bowmaster forever, right? Yeah. And then we win the game properly. That's what I should have done last turn. But we get there. We get to draw 6 here. And then we also just get to attack for 8, which is most of his life total, and make him sacrifice 2 lands. So even without the ability to do some sort of an infinite win, this is enough to get Kapala to scoop it up. All right, so lastly, I'm going to go over my game versus Kapala in the finals. I'm going to go over this a little bit more quickly since it's available from his POV on YouTube, where he's actually got commentary, right? And it's probably a lot more interesting from the winner POV, but you get to see my hands here and see what happened. So unfortunately, this is a 1-land mull. Unfortunate, right? And then this is a 2. It's not fantastic. What's really lacking. Also, I'm playing really fast here. I gotta think. Slow down, boy. So what it's lacking is the 2-mana instants and sorceries to fill our graveyard. But what I do like about it, it's got the Ugin's Binding plus the Null Drifter. We can also grab a Surveillant here to try and make sure we hit the 3rd land drop. So overall, this is probably enough. Again, it's objective survive against energy. We won the die roll. Actually, I won the die roll every single time in the playoffs because I was first seed. That's why. I had a perfect Swiss stage. And that was one of the things in this tournament. That's awesome. And Kapala doesn't even interact with us here. He's got Ragavan. So I think I'm actually doing pretty good. I'm thinking I'm going to get the Ugin's Bind to this kid. So Ragavan hits us. He follows up with a Johnny. That's it. Follows up with a Johnny. Wait, what'd you use your Ragavan man on? I'm going a little fast. Did you Thoughtseize me? No, just a tap land. Okay. Tap land and a Johnny. That's fine. I grab my other Surveil land. Somehow in this terrible mana base, we managed to fit 2 Surveil lands in. I think I should have been this in hindsight. I think about keeping it on top just as a draw 2, just to efficiently draw through my deck. But really, I need to see the other cards in my deck. Drawing 2 does help me get there, but like, there's a lot of relevant top decks I could have. Here I'm planning on just like bouncing a Ragavan in combat. I want to get this Ugin's Binding onto the stack so that a Juggernaut Peddler that gets played can't steal it from my hand, right? He's going to Thoughtseize me, so right here I'm just going to throw this Binding on the stack. Just bounce their Ragavan. Could also bounce the Ajani token as well. And then he probably takes the card Show and Tell from me here. He thinks about it for a while and then ends up taking the card Show and Tell. So I can maybe guess that he doesn't have an answer, but also like taking a Null Drifter doesn't do anything for him because that's redundant in my hand. Yeah, that was a good thing about keeping Null Drifter on top for me. It did make me discard proof. Maybe that's what I was thinking about at the time. Maybe past me is smarter than present me with the power of hindsight. So again, Kapala thinks about what to do here. He ends up flipping the Ajani to try to do max damage to us. All right, this is an interesting play. So I draw Ugin's Lab, and then I realize that I actually do have some extra outs that are afforded to me if I put one of my Null Drifters under the Ugin's Lab, because I will have access to 5 mana. So it's actually like really important that I end up doing this here, because there's a lot of impactful 2 mana cards that I could draw. To do that, I specifically tap my double colorless here. I get the Binding. I think I do bounce everything here just to slow Kapala down because, like, yeah, and Kapala knows I'm going to bounce everything here. So he just sacks his token, but, like, really, I got to slow him down. If he's going to flip a Johnny again, I need to make him pay 4 mana for it. We draw Binding. I was hoping to draw something like Malevolent Rumble. We're going to skip ahead in our chapters. We're going to mill a bunch, and the idea is that I can flashback something from my graveyard next turn. Kapala is going to redeploy his threats. He static prisons my Founding to prevent me from flashing something back from my graveyard. So essentially this acts like discard. If I had, I'm assuming I have like a Rumble or a Cash Grab or some other like really good card that could get me going in there. So it's a good decision. And then he just plays a Johnny. So he's threatening to do something. And then here on this turn, what I could do is I could just like hold up Binding, wait for him to put his Bombardment on the stack, bounce a Johnny, and that would probably stall me another turn. Again, it's like objective survive, right? So I'm bouncing back to him. He goes to discard me. And then I think about whether or not I want to actually Ugin's Binding here. I decide not to, because if he wants to discard the Ugin's Binding, I now have the out of having like Omniscience in my hand so that I can just Show and Tell it into play, which is really neat. I give him a tough discard. He ends up discarding the Fae of Wishes here, which, like I said before, you don't really need the Fae of Wishes to win versus fair decks. Like, it's not doing that much in my hand, the Fae of Wishes. So we have the Goblin Bombardment. I could bounce the Ajani now, or what I could do is I can make him sacrifice the token first. I'm just going to bounce it now. While it hits me for 2, okay, we go to my turn. And then I end up bouncing back this Null Drifter because I'm running out of things to do. And I need to bounce his board or die. Ah, One Ring. That's a great draw. So let's play the One Ring, stall a turn, or we could bounce his board. I'm not dying next turn, so I actually don't feel the need to One Ring just yet. But he can redeploy a Johnny Bombardment if this goes poorly for me. So I spend a bit of time tanking, and I decide to bounce his board one more time. Partially because I get my Founding of the Third Path back. He gets to hit me for 1 more damage. We're like so almost dead to a Johnny Bombardment. We're just barely alive here. And with enough One Ring fuckery, we could maybe like stall the game. All right. Chapter 2, mill some stuff. I would love to naturally draw a Shifting Woodland, though. That's what would really make my day. Oh, and then I have this Disciple of Freyalise. I should have played that as a land. Why didn't I? Maybe I didn't realize I had my land drop. Another reason why I could decide not to play it is in case I spike Show and Tell off the top. Actually, wait, I have Show and Tell at my graveyard. That's what I want to cast. I want to Show and Tell Omniscience into play, and I want Disciple to be part of my win condition, because that guy can draw 6 cards if I have an ELDRAZI. Okay, neat. So I'm threatening to Omni-Tell from my graveyard next turn. Kapala discarding an Omniscience wouldn't do anything for him, so he just discards my One Ring. And he gets rid of my ability to flashback Omni-Tell, unfortunately. Rumble. Ooh, this could go somewhere. I'm making sure to tap my colorless land because Arena is stupid with this deck, man. It prioritizes keeping that thing on top for no reason. There's a ring. It could be alive. And now, because I didn't play my land before, I can't play the ring. And like, if I shock myself, I go to 3, and I'm like so dead to Bombardment if I do that. So what we do is we make a tough decision to pass. And then I just die here because he can just play Bombardment off the Ragavan Treasure. Really unfortunate sequence of decisions, but he was just barely able to wheel under me. Now, obviously, like with the power of hindsight, I identified a couple of things I could have done differently in those last turns, like playing this Disciple as a land. But like that's something you only know with the power of hindsight, right? I had a specific reason I kept it in hand, and that was to try to win with a Show and Tell flashback from my graveyard. And like I played this Founding multiple times, threatening to flash that back, and Kapala kept being forced to prison it, keeping him off of mana. It was a really interesting game, but it worked out in his favor in the end. We did the same sideboarding here. 3-2. I keep Founding in. I should have 4 orbs. Me playing less than 4 orbs is a punt here, in my opinion. I think I should have had all 4 with the power of hindsight. I wasn't sure of it because, like I said at the beginning of the video, like this was a greaseball idea from 2 days before the tournament. We did not have that much time to test. Turbo Orb is just crazy good against energy. I should have had 4 in the deck. Okay. This is my 7 that I've given. So I can keep this and say this is a 7 that hits its land drops and it's got Shifting Woodland in its hand. So I will eventually get there. Or I can say this does not have enough gas. I end up keeping this. And another thing we have is Boseiju in our hand. Boseiju is pretty much a spell in this matchup because it's used to blow up Static Prison and Goblin Bombardment. Very strong. So this is like the spell Disenchant. So I pretty much just kept my combo plus Disenchant plus consistent land drops and my combo win from the graveyard. One Ring on top, that's fantastic. If he discards me, he's going to be very inclined to discard the Show and Tell and the Petal Omniscience. Instead of hitting the One Ring. So there's a good chance that this One Ring actually hits the battlefield this game. Let's fast forward for the first 2 turns because there's not too many decisions for me, right? I'm just making my land drops. He's playing his energy creatures. He petals me, and then he gets to choose between the Ring and the Omniscience. He ends up picking the Omniscience. Good choice. So if I do have the ability to One Ring later. He might have another discard spell, and if I remember correctly, it's bad when we were playing because he had triple Peddler this game. He just pedals all my shit and I lose. Peddler's an absolute house, so he's going to pedal my One Ring. Yep, pedal. We know he's going to take the One Ring here, guys. All right, I like an absolute luck sack. I draw another One Ring, by the way. Look at this luck sack draw off the top of the deck. So I actually have an out. I'm in this game somehow. I cast it right away, draw my 3 cards. Amped hits the third peddler, which doesn't work. It's so funny, right? He has to pedal himself here. I get to look at his hand. I see he has a Bowmaster. That's a hard knock life because I'm about to draw a bunch of cards off this One Ring. And he's just got so much board pressure. It's insane. Yeah, look at all that board pressure. And unfortunately, I know I skipped ahead a little bit, but all I did was draw off my ring and draw for turn. We just hit hot air with the One Ring. Just more copies show and tell, more lands. We hit the Null Drifter, which would have been awesome if we had Ugin's Binding in our graveyard, but we have not found that card yet. And we end up dying to energy here. Juggernaut Peddler being an absolute house by discarding my hand and just putting the pressure on at the same time. So one decision that I could have done a little bit differently is I played the One Ring right here as soon as I drew it. When they only had 5 power worth of pressure, and you could assume this to be 7 because Guided Souls will probably buff something, but that doesn't kill me, right? I could have sandbagged this One Ring one more turn to fog like the actual lethal attack right here. So we could have gotten a card deeper into our attack, but unfortunately I ended up scooping it up to Kapala here. Like I cast the Null Drifter in this turn just because I can't think of any other line that possibly wins the game. And what's really frustrating is that evoking the Null Drifter does hit the Ugin's Binding, so if the cards were just in a slightly different order, then we might have had a shot here. But unfortunately, Kapala kills us here, and that would be the end of the matchup. So hopefully those were some really interesting games. Kapala's POV of these games that he won is on YouTube. Either way, even though I lost in the finals, I had so much fun because I played with a rogue deck, off-meta deck. The most fun tournament I've had playing Magic in my life, I think. Just because I was playing like that off-meta deck that like literally nobody was expecting. And I had like a crazy run. I didn't lose a single match until the finals against Kampala. So this tournament was awesome. I hope the timeless 1Ks that are coming up are as awesome as this tournament. There's going to be monthly 1Ks, hopefully for the rest of the year. So stay tuned. I mean, I'm recording. It took me like a week to actually record this video. I'm so late. The 1K is in like 2 days. Because I was locked in trying to figure out what deck I want to play. So I'll do a recap after the 1K. Hopefully I'll do it a little sooner. The metagame challenge is going at the same time as the 1K, so I'm going to have to figure out the logistics of that because I also want to play in that and record the stats like last time and make content, right? So guys, I figure, oh, I'm also going on vacation next week in real life, coincidentally. Not for the whole week, like Wednesday through Monday. So I'll squeeze in the tournament post report, then go away for a week, and then like come back and hit the grind for next tournament because it's super fun. And actually, for next tournament, I want to make like some content where I like play test and I put it on YouTube because I kept that secret for this tournament, and it's fun to try and solve the meta in secret, but it's also a little disingenuous. And I think it would be awesome content if I was like on a call with some of the other really good players and we were trying to solve the meta together. I think that would make awesome YouTube videos. So be on the lookout for that stuff probably in about 2 weeks. Might even live stream that stuff. So see you then.